So one thing I wanted to show was how to turn a track into like a reactive track that reacts to things happening in the game world, that kind of thing. So I'll make a new timeline, like that, and then I'll get it to loop. So the way you do that is to use a keyframe. So I don't want the whole thing to loop to the beginning. I want this bit to loop once it's got to this end bit. So I'll do that, and hold L1 and move the playhead, and that records the position of the playhead. Now I want to keep changes so that when it gets to this keyframe, it'll set it there and just leave it there, and then allow the timeline to play as normal. Something you have to remember is to have the timeline length be the length you want it to be, because it actually stores the percentage through the timeline. So then if you change the length of the timeline, then middle will be like here or something. So if you do that first, then store this with L1 and X, store the playhead position, and now we can just expand that, plop that in, and condense it again. So when it gets to the end, it will go back to this point, like that. So now that kind of loops around there, but we want it to change at some point, so let's make a chip to hold this logic. Yeah, so let's build up a few different phases that it could go into, and then we'll add more logic to it. So the next phase will just introduce these parts, like so. So normally when it gets to this point, it'll go back to the beginning without playing this stuff. But then if we have a switch that is powering that keyframe, so we've got the keyframe and we've got a switch that powers it, then if that's off, then it won't loop back to that point and it will just allow it to continue playing. So this is good for something that has like a clear progression to it. So let's do that for one of the parts at least, and then we'll have another keyframe looping back to there, like that. And the way you'd probably use this is actually with a selector. A selector has many channels, and only one of them is sending a signal at any time, and you can tell it which channel to be currently active in different methods, and it always defaults to A. So A is sending a signal, so we'll power the first keyframe with A, but then when we change it to B, in this case by sending a signal, we'll just send a signal into move to next. So if we play time, if I send that signal, then it will go to B. Then A is no longer sending a signal to the keyframe. So it goes right on by. But then if B is on, then the second keyframe will work. So if we go to here, it goes right past. It goes right past it. But then when it gets to here, it will loop back round because that's the one being powered. Now sometimes that can happen, where it kind of plays this for a frame because it's not quite figured out that that's happening yet. So in that case, you can do it a slightly more advanced way with a timeline. You could put timelines within timelines, and let's say we wanted that to play, and that's play, and we'll just have this looping, so you can like stretch it out like that, like a normal clip. but we'll leave this off so that when you get to here, it won't play that at all, unless you're on the right mode. So then we can use a keyframe to turn on that timeline once we get to mode C, like that. So so if we move on to the next and move on to the next, now C is active and that timeline is active, so that timeline is active as well. Let's put it there. So it's playing just as normal without any problems. But now if we put it onto B, then this keyframe will loop it as just fine, like that. So you could put all of these phases in their own little timelines if you so wished. Next we'll look at how to bring in this, which has like a lead in, and then it loops kind of this section here, that kind of thing. So for that, we'll do it another way. So let's put a timeline on here. We'll make it a different color. So this will have, let's put that on, the kind of lead-in bit at the end, so that if this plays, it will play that kind of initial dong. But again, we will have that powered off unless we want to move on to the next part. So let's leave that powered off. We'll have a keyframe that powers it on, and we'll have that be in D, because this next section will be D. So when we're in this mode, it will turn on that timeline, allow the lead in to play, and we should probably have this looping sorted out as well, so let's do that. So this part of the timeline isn't playing, but this timeline is playing, and it's looping around fine. Okay, so now what if we change to the next one? So let's go here, so that will loop, and now it's on D. So we want D to power this one as well, so that it continues playing that timeline. So let's try that. Well, that's what it played, the kind of that lead up to it, and then it played this part. So now we'd probably copy these across, something like that. And now for testing, I'm going to change this switch for a value slider to use a different way that the selector allows you to tell it what to do. So we'll plug that into active port. Now the active port is which port this is active out of these. This is labeled A, but it's the 0 port, and this is 1 port, 2, 3, and so on. So if we, and it rounds down this number, so if we put 2.1, it rounds down to the number 2 port, which is 0, 1, 2. So now we can just say I want D to be the active port. And that lets it through. I'd like to thank Colwitzer, RevPlayer, PrismLight90 and all of my other supporters for making this tutorial possible. Thanks for watching. If you'd like me to continue making these tutorials and helping creators across the internet, you can find out how to support me in the link in the description. Thanks for your consideration, and I'll see you in the next one.